the 2024 United States presidential elections. There's only one question for the American African community. There's only one question for the American African community. There's only one question. Are you going to re-elect President Joe Biden after how you've been treated these 4 years? Nor should we elect Donald Trump. I am an advocate of sitting out the vote. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I am an advocate of sitting out the vote. Oh, yes. Stop being taken for granted. Stop being treated like a slave. Stop being exploited like a sucker. But most of you are so hypnotized by the coon Illuminati. Most of you have been so hypnotized by the black bourgeoisie. You think you have to vote. You actually think you get something from voting. No, you don't. Especially when you're disorganized. No, you don't. Especially when you don't make any demands. No, you don't. Especially when both parties laughs at you behind your back because you don't understand that you will never get anything until the black vote is organized on a black agenda. That means you don't vote for anybody who's not promising black agenda items. Oh, yes. Mass incarceration. What's the Democratic plan for mass incarceration? What's the Republican plan for mass incarceration? They have no plan. What's the Democratic Republican plan for the miseducation of our children? They don't have no plan. What's the Democratic Republican plan for the elimination of black homelessness and gentrification? They don't have no plan. What's the plan for police brutality and genocide? What's the plan for police brutality and genocide? They don't have no plan. What's the plan for economic resurrection and economic apartheid for black America? They don't have no plan, and they're not thinking about no plan because you're going to vote anyway. Do you see how that works? I need you to understand, overstand, and understand the Prince of Pan-Africanism right now. I need you to understand, overstand, and understand. It doesn't matter. They don't have to do for you because you will do for them whether they do for you or not. Did you hear what I said? Democratic Party plantation slaves. Did you hear what I said? Republican Party plantation slaves. Did you hear what I said? Democratic Party plantation slaves. Did you hear what I said? Republican Party plantation slaves. As long as you do for them without them doing for you, you will get nothing. As long as you do for them and they do not do for you, you will get nothing. But the black bourgeoisie will bully you, intimidate you, and embarrass you into voting. And how will they do this? How does a people who never get anything from presidential elections, how does a people who never get anything from presidential elections still manage to vote? How do you still manage to vote even though you never get anything? And the reason you still vote, although you get nothing, is they use the fear tactic. The American African is susceptible to the tactic of fear. They make you afraid of the Republicans. They make you afraid of the Republicans. They make you afraid of the Republicans. Even though the Democrats, the Democrats, the demonocracy, the Democrats are no different than the Republicans. They are no different than the Republicans, but they use fear to manipulate you. They use fear to manipulate you into voting. Oh, yes. Why did you go vote? Why did you vote for Barack Obama? Fear. Joe Biden? Fear. Bill Clinton? Fear. Jimmy Carter? Fear. Gerald Ford, fear. Kennedy, fear. Your vote is a fear vote. It is not a resources vote. It's not an outcomes vote. It's not a strategy vote. You are afraid that the Republicans will treat you worse than the Democrats when behind closed doors, there's only one party. When it comes to the American Negro, there's no such thing as Democrats and Republicans. When it comes to the American Negro, there's no such thing as Democrats and Republicans. When it comes to the American Negro, there's only one party, the African Elimination Party. That's it. The African Elimination Party. There's Democrats and Republicans when there's white people's issues on the table. They're only Democrats and Republicans when there's white people's issues on the table. When it's time to deal with black people, one party, the African Elimination Party. Will you understand? Will you overstand? Will you understand? Will you understand? Will you overstand? Will you understand? Will you understand? Will you overstand? Will you understand?
Dr. Umar, Ifatunde, what would you like Black South Africans to get involved in with the work you're doing and for them to maybe enlighten their Pan-Africanism? How do they start that journey?
Well, number one, we have to organize. I would like for South Africa to do exactly what I want Black America to do. The next presidential election for America is next year. The next presidential election for South Africa is next year.
Yeah.
I would wish all my South African brothers and sisters, just like all my American African brothers and sisters, don't vote for either party. Show them your power. If nobody shows up to vote in the next election, whoever loses will recognize how much they lost out on not catering to the grassroots Black vote. And as a result of that, the next election in 2028, they'll be eating out of your hands. The same thing in America. Don't give the Democrat your vote. Show them that you will no longer be taken advantage of. Yeah, you may have to deal with a Republican president for 4 years, but guess what? The Democrats haven't been no walk in the park either. Show the Democrats that if you don't deliver on the things that matter to us, not to the Chinese, not to the immigrants, not to the homosexuals, to Black people, show us that we matter and we will return the vote to you. The best way to influence the political process is to not participate in it in one election cycle and let the power structure see your power. But it's not likely to happen. You know why? Because the ANC, the EFF, just like the Republicans and the Democrats and everybody else, they make Black people, there's a tendency to make Black people feel bad for not participating in the electoral process. They tell you things like, you know, your ancestors died for you to have a right to vote. Yeah. No, they didn't. Nobody died for you to have the right to vote. They died for you to be free. They died for liberty. They died for justice. They died for equality. They saw the vote as the quickest means to achieve that. But now, 29 years after apartheid, we can clearly see, as you guys are going into your 6th election cycle, I believe it is, voting ain't going to change nothing in South Africa. So withdraw from the political process. Show them your power. In the next cycle, they'll eat out of your hand.